This special edition of the First Class Podcast was recorded December 2nd on Friday prior to Winnipeg's home game versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. Alrighty, welcome to the First Class Podcast, pulling it out retro style with Warren Smith. I'm Tim Bigelow, host of Central Division Hockey, because me and Warren, well, we couldn't do this on a regular basis. However, this year we're pulling out a few First Class podcasts, and part of the reason is we were ahead of the curve, and we are now. Going to just bring it up. So, just so you all know, for those of you who don't, me and Warren used to do the First Class podcast a number of years ago, kind of culminating with the year that Winnipeg went to the conference finals. That was kind of the last year we fully did it. However, technology at that time, distribution of that podcast was really hard. So it was kind of this hidden gem on through WordPress that you could actually access this podcast, which basically barely nobody did. Nobody knew we were out there.
No.
Yeah. But
we were non-existent.
But also in the kiddos, you guys can have Kenny and Rennie and your safe place. Because when we started doing this, no, and be honest, like I'm gonna be honest with you, when we started doing this, this was adult sports entertainment content on the Winnipeg Jets. That's really what it was. We didn't have, again, even Central Division Podcast has that nice little E when you're looking at it. I don't know.
Like you always said, we were the Spit and Chicklets before Spit and Chicklets was.
Yeah, exactly. And that stuff, if you went and looked up First Class Podcasts through WordPress, you'd still be able to play that stuff. But what brings me to the point of why I'm telling you about this is because of some of the stuff that originated in our podcast. One of them was using the word Josh Norrisy years before. And Warren, you were the one that coined it back then. And there are podcasts back then that have it in it.
That prove it, man.
Yeah.
Prove it. Yeah.
Like and you know what? Like the proof is there. Those podcasts still are up. Like I said, they're kind of hard to track down, but they are there.
They're there.
They're there.
Don't get me wrong. Like I love that everybody's using it now. I love it. It's great. Yeah. Just like patent pending, baby. Where's the money? Where's the royalties coming my way now? You have the proof. Just go back, check the game tapes, as I say, right?
Yeah, like the game tapes of that stuff back then. And I mean, like West Coast buffing, like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like, for the first half of the
straight
year.
West, straight West coasting for a buff.
Yeah, like there was a ton of them. Milk Carton Dano, we're going to talk about this year's Milk Carton player a little later on. Tons of stuff in there. And that's why we're bringing it out, because I'm telling you right now, as much as anybody wants it, like the thing about this is like my background being a DJ, Warren being like a punk rocker, and really we were 90s rock guys. Like if you think of like our wheelhouse. So it's just, you can't fake it. Like this is unabashedly, and I got the jersey on today. And yes, Morrissey from the Heritage Whites.
And I know old Trouba.
Trouba. Last time Winnipeg had a true top pair on defense.
Yeah. Had them both in their prime.
Yeah. So you know what? Like, we're gonna talk about it. So we're gonna talk about this season, which, by the way, and I stand corrected, a year ago, I had Winnipeg basically being in the top three with Colorado and Dallas. That's actually happened a year later. However, this year I didn't have them up there. In fact, I had them.
You had them at the bottom, bro. You have them at the bottom. We talked first. You're like, they're not making the playoffs. Like, they're going to be hunting for Bedard type situation. They're out of here, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way, man. No way. Glass half full. They're making the playoffs, man. They got a team. They got the core. I said internal growth, man. Internal growth. And you're like, yeah, no dice, man. Not with that defense. You know? He disagreed.
Well, okay. Now, but my argument on that, and we'll get into like all the different factors in this too. team defense, not particularly the D group.
Yeah.
And by that,
well, that's the thing. The sum of the parts versus the individuals by themselves. That's been the whole thing for the Jets this year.
Okay, but when you talk, one of the strengths of Winnipeg was always down center ice. Even with Andrew Kopp gone this year, there's still strength down center ice. And part of that too is like the what we would call the it's not even just a centerman, but always whoever F1 is coming back in the defensive zone. But Scheifele's more committed to that this year. Lowry's always been good at it. Dubois. When you think about that, team defense and that structure that Rick Bowness put in place and the buy-in.
Giving the defenseman the freedom to jump up in the play and know that guy's going to have their back.
Yeah.
So there's no hesitation. He who hesitates is lost, man.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. The Jets were lost a lot based on that alone.
So I didn't account for the fact that there would be more defensive play from the forwards to help compensate for what I think defensively is at times suspect with this Jets D group. So yeah, and of course Hellebuck's having his return to Vezina campaign.
And also early in the season, after a few terrible games, Logan Stanley had to leave the lineup.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that, but maybe we should start at the coach and the system change and talk about Rick Bowness first off. And by the way, I was one of the guys at least that said, let's give Bowness a chance. And I only covered Dallas the entire time he was the head coach there. So I watched the guy coach another NHL team. I know what he brought to the table. He's inherited, I think, offensively, a more gifted team in Winnipeg than he had in Dallas. And
yeah, I mean, like no slouch with both Jason Robertson, obviously what he's become and Hintz and everything like that. But yeah, on paper, the Jets are more stacked offensively.
Yeah,
more dynamic players for sure. And that's what was crazy about it. So you were about Bones right from the beginning. I was like, why didn't they get Trotz? How did they not get Trotz? That was like general consensus. The sky was falling when we didn't get Trotz. Bonus, like, what is this? This isn't nothing special. This is not going to change. This is not going to be a game changer for the Jets organization. This is not going to be the thing that puts them back in the playoffs. But meanwhile, when you do look back at the previous year and that the Dallas Stars found their way, getting lots of overtime losses, mind you, helping them. But it's like they had that.
You gotta check that because you're a whole season off. It was the year prior that was.
Oh yeah, they had like 40 the year before. Whatever the case may be, it's like they're a very grindy team and they just found a way to get more points. It's like the Jets. I thought there's no way that they would get more points than the Jets and get into the playoffs there. But they were a tough test for the Flames as well. So when you see what Bones did with that squad, with that team, it's hard not to think that maybe you do a little better with what the team that we have now,
Yeah, and Bones did take that team in the bubble to the Stanley Cup final to lose to Tampa Bay the 1 year too. It's not
forgot all about that.
Like that's the year he took over as the interim. Now, but I just looked and I posted it even on the Twitter, in the Twitterverse after the hiring. Jamie Benn talking about Rick Bowness and how he was with players and how players played for him and how he actually was like a real, cared about the individual. Like Tyler Seguin was talking about, and Tyler Seguin before his injury was a all-star player, like perennial all-star player, talking about he was going to miss, Bowness for that. Like Bowness was a great guy. He liked playing for him. And when you're bringing a coach on and you hear an all-star type of player, because that impact, of course, would impact our star players, which is a big thing.
And now you're hearing the same thing.
Yeah.
From the Jets players currently, every time they get interviewed, just when KC was on Chicklets recently, and then a bunch of the other guys, Perfetti was interviewed by a few people, and they're talking about the difference in dynamics in the locker room. And just that there's a gap between Paul Maurice and the players sometimes. And there was kind of like a more of a hierarchy of like, there's the Wheels and Shice of the world that he could talk to and that maybe be open to listening to. But then there was the guys that are a little bit lower down on the totem pole, you know, the third and fourth liners that didn't have much to say. And even some of the guys like Josh Morrissey, like look at the growth and development of his game. How much was his voice heard the years previous? Was he, or did he have some, did he have the reins pulled in, you know? But it's hard to know. But Bones, for me, honestly, the thing that I thought first was the symmetry of the situation. That's what I like. You know, like you said, I was a musician growing up and all that, so I like metaphors and all that kind of shit. And I like symmetry, and I thought it was cool that he was in the 1.0 generation. And now, after all this time, he's going to come back and be a part of this team. So, like, I thought of that more than I thought of like what he would do as a coach. But I remember all the things, all the people, all you heard was great things about what kind of person he was. That's what they talked about, was the individual and how he communicated. And when you hear that, you're like, okay, well, maybe this season can be different, even though there wasn't personnel changes. That was the thing. The team wasn't changed really. There's no dramatic changes. There's little pieces here and there that picking up. The Menelians of the world, they were like cast off nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, what did we get? Sam Gagne on PTO. Ooh, let's get all excited about that shit. But but now it's like the sum of the parts. All the pieces are coming together, and the way he utilizes these pieces is substantially different.
Yeah, and that's something we should talk about too. And again, using a Dallas reference, Jason Robertson getting put on the top line and in a position to succeed, who's now the NHL's leading goal scorer, now under a different coach. But that happened under Rick Bowness's time in Dallas. He's the one that found the magic that was Joe Pavelski, Rope Hintz, and Jason Robertson, which basically became one of the most dynamic lines in the NHL. And this year, still together by the new coach in Dallas, that's Rick Bowness. That's his magic. Finding that player that basically was under the periphery and ended up having him be a Rookie of the Year candidate, and only lost it because of Kirill Kaprizov. In fairness, that was the right call. But you know what I mean? That's Rick Bowness. And
he discusses that, right? Yeah. Having moments where he had to talk to Robertson and a similar type of thing, like putting him farther down the lineup and having to earn his minutes. He talks about that. We've talked about that before, about how much it grinded our gears as fans to watch certain players on the team just be given power play time. 5-on-5, they're not back checking, they're not doing the small details of the game. The bonus is like, no, you played properly 5-on-5, then you get the candy time. He didn't say that. That's my old term, the candy. You get the candy, right? Now you get it only if you do the hard work. If you're in the trenches and doing it, there's no slacking off with bonus. You know.
Well, last year, at one point, that power play with the effectiveness of it, I was like, if I was coaching that team, I would have had 5 defense out.
Yeah.
To start a power play.
Sure. Like to make a statement.
Just to make a statement.
To make a statement, be like, this is not good enough.
Yeah.
So predictable, so passive, so lethargic. It really was. It was, as a fan, it was really hard to watch. Towards the end, there's games I completely dipped out. And you know me, like I'm 24/7, pregame, postgame, I'm looking at all the things. I was like, that was the only season. Last season, by the end, their attitude and shit was nauseating. So it was like, you could feel their energy, like the way they were, you know, their vibe.
This year, my team is the Triple Zegras and the Anaheim Ducks. I dip out on those games all the time.
Yeah. You don't like the Michigan goal, eh? Doesn't float your boat. It's not the be all and end all for you.
One trick pony. Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you a highlight reel to watch. Go find Nashville's overtime winner over Anaheim in their 2-1 snooze fest. Zegras making a pass to no one in the defensive zone is how they get set up. But yeah, let's talk about highlight reel Zegras. Triple Zegras. Sleep inducing.
Yeah, when he played the Jets too, wasn't he the one who had like a brutal turnover and ended up costing him a goal towards the end of the game?
Yeah. The game tying goal is
somebody picked his pocket. Yeah, he made a terrible turnover. Who turned it over to? You remember?
Yeah. I think Kyle Connor's.
It was Kyle Connor, right?
Yeah. That's his Hattie game. Come on, man.
They joked about it because kind of like they skate with each other in the off season or something like that. And it's like he's going to hold on to that one for like,
Well, you know what?
give him the gears.
This summer, if Zegras skates with KC, he probably should get out a notepad and a piece of paper, or I guess his iPad. I mean, come on, they don't have.
Yeah, I've never heard. I wonder who Zegras' favorite player was. I guarantee it wasn't Pavel Datsyuk. He doesn't model his game like KC does, over picking pockets and making sweet defensive plays.
Zegras isn't old enough to have even seen Pavel Datsyuk play.
That's true. That's true, actually, probably. Eh? How old is that kid? Like 19?
Like 20? Austin Matthews is his idol.
Like pre-porn stash Matthews, pre-hanging out with Bieber Matthews.
Yeah,
that was his idol.
Yeah. But anyways, let's talk about the Jets. Okay, so the coaching now. Take an example, and I was kind of cheesed actually too. Like when Bones, not that Bones got sick, but the idea that Scotty Arniel couldn't run an NHL bench when even he, as part of the coaching staff, has NHL head coaching experience. Like it was just.
Well, that, and there was talks of Scott Arniel potentially being the head coach. Before Bones came along, there was rumors that might happen.
Yeah, so but it was a good addition to the coaching staff. Like it was, but it's like you really actually do even have a coaching staff that has guys with NHL head coaching experience on the coaching staff. You know what I mean? Like that's a huge thing. You look at teams that are really good doing well. Jersey, they picked up Andrew Burnett, who was a head coach last year. He's now an assistant in Jersey. You look at
what that shows too. We never talked about really, even off air. It was like the lack of ego in that for Scott Arniel, because he was looking to be a head coach for the Jets potentially, and instead he takes a step down in an assistant role. Doesn't look at that in a negative way. That's not like if that doesn't relate to how the whole season's gone with the team and the buy-in. He bought it when he didn't have to. There could have been that little bit of resentment, that little bit of frustration of not being the man, but you don't see that in anything from him. He seems like on the same page, just solid,
So that's been a big improvement. So that we talk about the new coach bump, but you still have to have a good team to get the new coach bump, because
the PK, man, the PK, that's related to coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
In strategies. And last year, the last couple of seasons, the Jets have been so loosey-goosey. They didn't apply that pressure that the Jets do now. The Jets give no time and space for anything, and they have one of the better PKs in the NHL. That's a big part of their success.
Yeah, but it's all based on a roster personnel too, that you could do that, because the Jets, I always said, like people would talk about the Jets playing with speed. Like you'd hear that from Paul Maurice, oh, we need to play with speed. But with Winnipeg, it was always it's super speed. That's why, like, and again, we're going to jump ahead of it. How many times we should make the amount of times we talk about Logan Stanley in here as it's like a drinking game. Remember, I used to have like
the new milk carton.
Yeah, the new milk carton.
We used to call a guy Marco Dano. Does anybody out there remember Marco Dano? Probably not.
Milk carton. Milk carton Marco Dano.
He played for somewhere in Europe where he was the best player on the team, Latvian, or I don't even remember, to be honest. He was the best player on the team, and he came over here. He had a lot of hype, and then he didn't get a lot of playing time. And then I remember joking with you. It's so funny. It was like he hadn't played a game in, I don't know, like 2 months. Like it was 2 months. And there was no conversations by any of the announcers, broadcasters, that Marco Dano existed. No, like, is he coming in the lineup? Potentially, like, depending on how somebody's playing, is there a chance that Marco Dano could bump up and get an opportunity? No talk. And then all of a sudden it's happy birthday Marco Dano on the Moose or the Jets page. I don't remember what. It might have been the Moose.
I think they did both. I think they did both.
Happy birthday Marco Dano. Like, we love you so much, man. But it's like, then nothing. Crickets. It was just gone.
But he was good for the room.
Yeah, good for the room. That's what they always say. Hey, Matty Hendricks, good for the room. Stonehands Thorburn, great for the room.
Take a lot of heat, though. You know what? We would have took a lot of heat from Winnipeg fans for the stuff that we put out. And I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Like, I might bring it, man. I'm going to be wrong sometimes. Like, I basically had the Jets at the beginning of the year being like a point ahead of where San Jose finished a year ago. Bad take. Call me out on it. Okay, fine. Okay, now the other part of it is, okay, we talk about the captaincy. We should talk about that. because another guy that I've been hard on is Blake Wheeler. Absolutely. And I
Yeah,
know
you and I are always going back and forth with pushing back against that, right? I'm playing the other side of that.
Yeah, because you've been full on it. So we were talking again. Another Dallas comparison is Jamie Benn. By the way, Daryl Ray, who does color commentary for Dallas, um, former NHL goalie, backup goalie, even he would say that. But the Oilers, among teams he played for, refers to it as the Benaissance because of Jamie Benn refinding his game. But 26 points, 24 games played, 9.5 million when he had 46 points in 82 games played a year ago. Wheeler, 20 points in 21 games played this year, 8.25 million, 60 points, 65 games played a year ago. So even Wheeler's drop off last year was actually not even as substantial as Ben. Injuries contributed to that, but guys who
it felt worse because of the horrific season of the Jets. Hey, it felt like his point production was way lower because those weren't game-winning goals and those weren't apples that contributed to wins. Them getting booed from the postseason, like we were both on the same page as far as that when it comes to Wheels. For a while, I was talking every time we're talking, it's like, man, what are they going to do? Where are they going to trade Wheels? Like we were part of that contingent, and still there we to discuss. Like, is there going to be a buyout situation? How are they going to make the value? Like, how are you going to make up the value? That's a lot of money to pay Wheels for not producing. And then this year, just like Jamie Benn, we don't have a good nickname for that for his resurgence. But the reality is, he's done a lot of the grind work on the boards, getting in front of the net, traffic, screens, playing the right way. You see him smiling a lot more. He was grumpy bear, Wheels, just hating on life. Every interview, he was pissed off, man. Now he seems like he's lighthearted, having a good time, and it's reflecting in his game. And it's like, now it's like that contract doesn't look so bad. That looked horrendous. At the start of the season, we're going, do the Jets have the worst contract in the NHL and Blake Wheeler? So that's been a seismic shift, I'd say, since the start of the year.
And one that comes with losing the captaincy at the beginning of the year. How many guys would this have been like, see you later? I'm not buying in.
100%, man. That shows character. The way he took that on, like that's hard, man. Like ego-wise, you got to push your ego aside.
He should have been like full out what's the old movie Slapshot and the French guy always liked it. Trade me right fucking now, like
totally. That movie's so good.
Classic. Who owns the Chiefs? But like that whole thing is like,
hey, it could have been like, I'm Blake Mother Wheeler. Okay, I've been leading this team in scoring for how long and been your captain. And you're gonna just take it away from me here.
Like, but that's the thing is like, then you think, okay, they've got a trade like lined up, but they haven't. Now his trade value has gone up. I'd argue
the hat trick didn't hurt.
You do make the 4-point game basically makes these numbers look really good. They wouldn't have looked as good after that prior to the 4-point game. It gets them
reuniting with Scheif, their chemistry was perfect. The last 3 games, right? The last 3 games, those numbers have boosted up dramatically, but still.
Which I thought was weird because Perfetti's a passer, like he's the next, as you said while we were, doing a bit of prep here. I don't want to steal your phrase. But,
Platter Perfetti, man. That's what he does, though. That's what he does.
So
he's such an unreal passer.
Yeah. So you got Blake Wheeler, whose career numbers show he's a 2 assist to 1 goal player.
Yeah.
Right. And now he's become a shooter in this last stretch here.
Yeah. So in theory, you would assume that it'd be better for Wheeler to be playing with 2 snipers, not another guy.
Perfetti to be doing the same. Yeah.
1 sniper, right?
Yeah. That was my thought. So, and all of a sudden it's like it worked. So it wouldn't be
that behind the back, that pass, the one I'm talking about in the slot, like the delay, the hesitation, waiting for the other defender to make his move first to show his hand, like chess or poker, showing his hand, and then just sauces it on a platter for Wheels to bury that into the open net. It's like, bro,
Wheels making no look on the bench. He's making no look passes like this.
Yeah.
Like I think it took Wheeler, I think, a game to realize that the puck was going to be there.
Dude, yeah, it's the puck. It's moving the puck, moving your feet and moving the puck quickly and knowing where each other's going to be. Yeah. That's what you see with this line. It's that old Shifing wheels know where each other's going to be, and all of a sudden, Perfet just fits in there like a glove and just understands this. It's the same mentality, the same idea of spacing, time and space, right? And angles, entering the zone in this like triangle formation all the time, and just reading off each other and switching on the wall all the time.
And
like the way they cycle.
And respectfully, I know I've said, hey, like let's hold the brakes on that Colorado team because of that forward group. That's 5 of their like everyday regulars on the D that they did that against. Like that was like other than Jacob McDonald, who's not a bad defenseman.
True enough. So they need to get a better test.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that was actually Colorado's like D group. Although, you know what, like I saw after on the Scheifele, actually it was the Scheifele Connor 2-on-1. That's Galchenyuk in his first game. Like basically doesn't cover for the pinching D-man on Colorado. That's where that breakdown happens. Like there was stuff that happened in that game that
so it gave him a little bit more time and space. Yeah. Those forwards that are Rando, Garbo, AHL players that are up, you know, they're not making those reads quick enough, and so it makes it feel like slow motion for these guys playing against those guys. You know, Dallas is weaker players.
Well, it's like when I looked at the lineup and I'm like, okay, Logan O'Connor and Andrew Cogliano, fourth line between Darren Helm on the Stanley Cup team. They were playing second line with JT Compher in Winnipeg. Like that's injuries. Like, come on, man. Like, you know, when they get back to health, that's going to be the fourth line in Colorado, not the second line. You had 3 line mismatches and you still got to shut down.
Like I said,
still points.
He and I always go back and forth over this, Tim and I. But it's like at the end of the day, you got to get the points. You got to beat the team that's out there, man. And nobody's going to feel sorry for you in this league.
Well, nobody.
And that team, and you can put all the semantics you want, but that team's beaten other teams. They walked in that night, same record as the Jets. And then they walked out, one more loss because the Jets put it on them and stepped on their throat. Yeah. And the whole point of that game was old school Jets, let them off the hook. Maybe they start making some cute plays.
Actually, the Chicago game.
You know what I'm saying?
Chicago game too. That was a full 60.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Old school Jets, they don't play that way. They let their foot off the gas. Maybe it's a 1 or 2 goal game at the end, so you still get the W, but you fall into bad habits. So then when you're playing the next Dallas game, you know, you're playing a tough team that's playing good hockey. You're going to lose that game because you've lost that connection. You know, you've lost that those disciplines. And they've kept them in these games where they've kicked ass and taken names. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah, because you should light up a Chicago team.
And it's good for the confidence. Yeah. Seeing the puck go in the net, all of them, they can take that into the next. That's momentum. It's a real thing. Even in between games, you can take that.
It's good for the numbers, like the Chicago
game. But good for the momentum.
But like Chicago shouldn't even be allowed to put that roster on the ice and sell tickets for it. Like that's.
Hey, they just lost by 1 to the Oilers, right?
Well, yeah, because the Oilers took dumb penalties, and like I said, go watch the replay of CeCe's goal, man. Skates right in front of his own net and loses the puck in the prime scoring area. Even against a bad Chicago team, they're going to take advantage of that. Like, come on, man. Okay, so Connor Hellebuyck, you know, Vezina worthy again, and I've looked at the numbers, and his goal saved above expected number, according to Money Puck, is in the top, 5 in the NHL. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but you know what? That because he's still taking a lot of shots, but they're keeping them from prime scoring chances.
Yeah, there's not quality. It's quantity shots in most of these games, and you can live with that because Connor's stopping that all day, every day. If he can see the puck, he's stopping the puck, and he's fighting harder through screens than he did last year. His angles are on point. And he's even making some of these like miraculous, crazy acrobatic saves, even more so than I would say in the past. Like, honestly, I used to always joke like he's such a positionally sound goalie, right? Solid, always in the right position. And last year he was a little bit off his angles, and I was kind of hard on him, right? When we talked about how
I was
rough on Helly. I was just saying like he's playing like garbage. He's like not even close to one of the top goalies in the league anymore. What's going on is he had a kid, and now it's just like it's the home life. It's a little bit too much crying by the baby, or can we blame the baby for the Jets not making the playoffs? I don't really know, but that's a lot of pressure to put on that baby. But I'm just saying, the real hell, he showed up this year again and driven again, and he's locking it down. When the Jets were having a rough few games, and they got dubs because he put them on their back, and now it's like they're having his back.
You know what? That's kind of like a Nashville thing with UC Saroso, where they give up a lot of shots too. Like there's a level where both these goalies have to play and have those like top of the league goal save above expected marks for the team to win games. Like, and I'm not saying all the time, and maybe less so for Winnipeg than Nashville. But part of that problem is that, as I was saying to you when he had his struggles last year, I'm like, he's still better than most teams, like starting goalie, even on an off year. And people forget that because the
expectations are so high.
Look, when you get, but that's the thing with Rick Bowness right now. It's like, okay, Scheifele, you've been a top, point getter in this league, two-way player. You got to get back to it. Morrissey, I want you to be in the Norris conversation. Hellebuck, I want you to be winning another Vezina trophy.
He said, Scheif, you want to be a top 5 player.
Yeah.
That involves playing both sides of the puck.
Yeah.
You can go and you could probably go get 110 points, 105 points, crack that 100-point plateau, no problem. But you might be a -15. We can't be having that in our lineup. We need you to play both sides of the puck. Maybe get like 80 points and you're locked down Patrice Bergeron style, Scheifele's definitely, you can see the difference in his level on the back check this year. And that's a huge reason why they are where they are. So, that's a coach, that's a conversation. There's no more being let off the hook. Oh, you're Scheifele, so it's okay. There's different rules for you than there is for Adam Lowry, and there's different rules for Gustafsson now or whatever. Had Maurice been here, it's like you guys can do
Gustafsson, he's still playing first line at the Moose if we had Pomo as a coach.
Yeah, the Moose line, man. The Moose line.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, like as we talk about that, Hellebuck does have to be an elite goalie for Winnipeg to be in the mix, but any NHL team that's going to be in the Stanley Cup conversation needs to have that piece in place. Like Jake Ottinger is an explanation why Dallas is a team we're fighting with Colorado, and Alexander Georgiev, despite what Winnipeg fans saw him, he's been pretty good too. Like when you look at the teams that Winnipeg's going to compete for the Central Division title with, the one thing they have in common is really good goaltending. Like that's the truth of it. And Hellebuck has to be.
It's very rare you win a championship or even come close without having legit elite goaltending. You got to have top 5 goaltending.
Yeah. Colorado might be one of the exceptions.
Exceptions to the rule. Yeah.
Yeah, but that roster was stacked otherwise. But like at full health, which we haven't seen from them yet, which is a scary thing if you're a Winnipeg fan. Like, but again, as
it's a scary thing for the rest of the Central Division to know that Nikolai Ehlers is coming back in the lineup, right? He's pretty good. And boy, Appleton, the ginger kid assassin, he's coming back.
Well, I do like
that. Worth noting. Stanley hopefully stays out.
One of the two of those guys coming back, though, would help the top 6. Like, 100%. Really.
It'll be interesting how they maneuver the lineup when both those guys are back.
People should have had about 3 drinks by now at this point.
3 drinks?
Well, yeah, because I told them to take a drink every time we brought up Stanley in the podcast.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
Because we used to have the drinking game in here too, right?
Yeah.
You used to always have something to be. Who used to be a drinking game like? We always have that, where with
when every time Bayek said Karam.
Yeah.
One, remember?
Yeah.
Karam around the boards.
Yeah.
There's a few. Can't remember them all, but
yeah.
Can't remember because of the drinking.
Yeah. I guess Sawyerisms now would be a way to do it, though, right?
Sawyerisms, yeah.
Yeah.
His best still is stick handling through raindrops. He plans all these in advance and then tries to find the perfect time to put them in there.
Which is why he can't even analyze a play because he's just waiting to get his
He's like, yeah, I got my thing. Gotta use it.
Well, it's a fourth liner trying to analyze hockey. I love the fourth liners analyzing hockey because it's like what they got to do is get the puck in deep and get on the forecheck. This is basically the reason those guys got to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, I was going to brush over the backup goalie situation and just move on to the defense, but Warren does want me to talk about David Riddick. So fire away.
Big save Dave, bro. Big save Dave.
Siv.
3 dubs. This is his favorite player in the world. Every time we find out he's going to start, Tim texts me and tells me how excited he is to see Big Dave save.
Yeah. The record's all right. I'd replace the A with an I. That's what I do with it. And then I look down at our depth chart and what did I say just before we came on? I was like, Arvid Holm could win those games.
Hey man, he was having a hell of a game until he wasn't.
Scary Salamani, by the way. Another
who?
That's it. That's the backup goalie for Home.
Are you talking about the Moose?
Yeah. It's talking about the Moose. Other goalies that I think could win us games. Although, and I did say to you, and I'm not kidding you, I actually think the whole Mikhail Burden having to get loaned meant that he didn't have to go through waivers, and we didn't lose him because of that. Because if you think about it, like Nashville tried to do that with Connor Ingram, he's in Arizona now. And I would have put what's his name? Burden as the next guy on the list that I didn't think was going to get through waivers. For real.
I'm blanking for some reason now. Who was the epic collapse that almost happened very recently? The Jets let go 3 goals in the last however many minutes.
Oh, Carolina.
Thank you, Carolina.
And Riddick picked up the win. And you know what? I don't hate.
But hey, yeah. It was funny because in that game, he made a couple like pretty big saves, bro. And I was laughing because I was going to message Steve. I was going to message Tim here and go, hey, man, how do you like that Big Dave save? He did some diving across save. And then it's like, bang, bang, bang. Like right after I was just about to text you. And I held off on pulling the trigger. And then it just went, well, that's not good. Can't say that now. And it's like, it's not all on him, those goals. They were all guys in front, minor deflections and shit. Right, but
I'm not going to.
Helly probably stops one of them.
Yeah, but I'm not going to fault him on it. Mind you, like the win-loss record, all he needed to do is you need your backup to be better than 500. He's
done his job so far. Early on, juicy rebounds, but they've kind of turned into transition offense for the Jets, fortunately. But big juice rebounds. Big day save, but getting it done. And then Helly's the Vezina, so we got the best goalie in the league, in my opinion. You still like what's his face in Dallas? There's pretty nice too.
Yeah, well, you know what? Based on age too, it's like, okay. Here's the deal. I think Jake Ottinger reminds me of Connor Hellebuck, and he's just younger. So if I was picking a goalie to build a franchise around, I would pick Ottinger based on age. But if you had asked me 4 years ago, I would have taken Hellebuck over the course.
I'm still taking Helly for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But if you were thinking,
he's still got prime years, man, right now.
Like so, but the thing about it is both of them and not jumping around the net, having to make a save because they're out of position. When Hellebuck is quiet and it looks like oh whatever. He's having a phenomenal game. That game
against the Avs, it looked like he was kicking the puck exactly out, blockering it exactly where he wanted to put it. Didn't it? Looked like it was on a string. It's like the shot. It was like he was just redirecting exactly where he wanted it on the ice.
But when he has a stellar game, you basically say, "Oh, they didn't like the other team didn't get any good chances," because he makes it look like everything was easy, and that's kind of part of it.
Do. That's what the great ones do. But he's still making those crazy athletic saves when called upon more often than not. So he's got that in his bag too.
Yeah.
So.
There's been a couple stick saves that have been unbelievable where he's robbed people of.
Hellebuck's health is like literally the number one important thing for the Jets. Health in general with every team, but Hellebuck is an MVP style goalie, like legit.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
That's a big uptick for it. Okay, so we'll talk about the D group. There's Josh Morrissey, then there's everybody else on this D group. And I mean, they've been admirable, but you know, the whole thing, and we talked about it off the top, the Josh Morrissey thing, we were first on that. You can go back and find it. But I never doubted his upside. I've always said that basically his D partners have always limited it because he's had to like cover. And I'm telling you, like Dylan DeMello's not a top 4 defenseman in the National Hockey League.
He's barely in the 6, man. But he's had a couple okay games. I say playing with Josh Morrissey also makes him look a lot better, though. It's not hard to look good playing along with Josh Morrissey. You know what I mean? He's done okay. He's gotten off my hit list. He was on that list at the start of the year with, am I going to say it? Logan Stanley. Take a drink, take a shot. But he's on that list of shenanigans players that weren't playing that good at the start of the year. Sam Gagner is there now. It was everybody's Batman for a while.
That's Logan Stanley is this year's milk carton, by the way. Gone missing, but nobody's missing him.
Oh, milk carton, yeah. You hear once in a blue moon that Stanley's gone. It's funny when they talk about him being a regular defenseman that they're missing. Like when they talk about missing Ehlers and missing Appleton, the ginger kid assassin, I like to call him. And then Logan Stanley, and it's just like bum bum bum. It's like nobody really cares that Logan Stanley is that a real? Are you being serious? Like, are you joking?
Like, and what did I say to you? I'm like, when he got injured, I was like, the career never started. Hopefully, injury.
Was it?
The career never actually started.
Yeah.
Injury.
That's what you're saying up there.
Yeah.
It's addition by subtraction with Logan Stanley, right?
But and I was bang on Caprio Bianco. Like he's really truly that 7th guy, injury replacement value guy. The guys.
Yeah, but how you talk about the Jets, you talk about how they play a fast pace. Like Cappy Bianco that you were talking about from I didn't really watch him before.
Yeah.
And then when he's got his opportunities, he looks good. He's a smooth skating defenseman. And he fits in the system a lot better than a guy like Logan Stanley. You know what I mean? And then Dylan Sandberg, he's had a couple moments that weren't amazing here and there, but overall he's been pretty steady, pretty solid. He's looked pretty good back there. He looks a lot better than Logan Stanley. So, you know.
And he's a good partner for Nate Schmidt. I think that's a good
I think so too. Yeah. I like those two to better. I like Pionk instead on the second role at the moment.
With Dylan.
Yes, with Dylan. Yeah, I like that as the second pairing.
Yeah.
It works a little bit better together.
The upgrade is that if you can get more value out of, and I've always said Schmidt was the guy you had to move to have the cap money to get a right hand, like right shot D. That was always to me, which if Calgary can continue to tank, I mean, like really.
Oh, can you imagine?
No, but nice. I wanted Chris Tanev because he's a guy that I thought would be really good with Morrissey, but I wanted him when he was available as a free agent from Vancouver, like this whole time that he's been in Calgary. He's even older now. But geez, man, I'd even take like Alex Edler for a bottom pair guy over DeMello even right now. He's with the Kings. And of course, Edler was formerly with the Moose. Like that's how long he's been with or was with Vancouver. So just a couple guys. There's not a lot of right-hand Ds that fit that. Like
there's not a lot of options.
And like right Damon Suderson, if you could have got him, and you missed
nobody
out
from the Moose are pushing their way up either right now.
Yeah.
Like I know everybody there is like the mad like Bataan love for Hanola, but like he has not done enough to push his way up to stick as far as I'm concerned. And I was like big, like love the idea of having him on the second power play unit.
That's a left
we talked about
again.
that so many times, but he's not there right now.
That's a left D again.
What's that?
It's a left-hand D again.
Left-hand D, yeah.
What they've always needed is the right-hand D, Dustin Byfuglien replacement. And Trouba, by the way, was also a right-hand D. Yeah.
Trouba, yeah.
So it's like Morrissey and Trouba were a top NHL defense pair. And they had the good work.
So older or not, if like Tanev's on the table, I'm taking that all day, every day. Even just watching when the Jets played Calgary, like, and the way they talk about him, and they talk about him as like that, like anchor, that like that's the guy that keeps the glue guy on their team. That just he could be that stay-at-home defenseman for Josh Morrissey. Imagine how much more he could explode onto the scene, like legit.
Well, just look at the numbers of Hughes in Vancouver with Chris Tanev opposite him versus with him not. His best season was Chris Tanev as his defense partner.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not rocket science. You know what? Like Josh Manson was a guy that we wanted, missed out on. Of course, Colorado won't let him go. But who do they pair him with? They always pair him with either Bowen Byram or Sam Girard, two puck moving guys, smooth as silk.
Yeah.
Like
that to me would have been the perfect fit for the Jets.
No, he would have been, but you had to get him the year before the year Colorado did get him. But for whatever reason, the Jets just can't finalize that deal. But they're, like I said, managing, but I think team defense is a big thing on it. And actually, let's go from one Tanev to the other, because we didn't talk about the no love line. When we were big boosters of Tanev, Brandon Tanev, Lowry, and Kopp back in the day. And I remember saying the TLC wanted to call them TLC line. And it was 2 years later when that got picked up on. And we started dubbing them the no love line, because you're like,
no love line. Yeah. I love, because you said that to me. You goes to me, Tim goes to me, she called them the TLC line. And I was like, I paused for a second. I was like, no, man, they're the no love line. They're the complete opposite of TLC. They don't get any TLC. Because they block shots. They do all the hard work in the corners. They kill the penalties. They're the heart and soul guys, but they're not putting the puck in the net, and nobody likes them. Everybody's talking trash, saying they need more bottom six production. Meanwhile, they're shutting down the opposition's best. Kind of like what's happened now with the Jets' bottom six. Very similar. A little bit, maybe less dynamic, not as noticeable, because Tanev was just like Tasmanian devil, just flying all over the place, blocking shots with his face and things like that. So people fell in love with him instantly. Well, not instantly, but like once it hit, it hit.
Yeah,
and
once
then all of a sudden, and then everybody jumped on board. It's like, oh, this is the TLC line. We all love them. But, man, they had mad hate for a period of time before they finally got them over. So I'm just wondering now that that Menelani got a couple of goals and Harkins got a couple of goals, all of a sudden everybody loves the bottom six. They're talking about the bottom six and all the post-game, all the stuff like, oh, bottom six production. They're really getting it together. Now it's like, what about before? Just because the puck wasn't going in the net, why do you think Scheifele's getting good matchups? Why is Dubois getting good matchups now against the other team's best? It's good coaching.
So I want to take this to where Adam Lowry is basically, I think, this year driving his own line. We used to say Kopp, Lowry kind of drove a line, and then the third piece, whatever it was. I mean, at one point it was Armia, then Tanev, then Appleton, then no one. So they got Appleton back. But
anybody with Lowry learns how to play hockey the right way. You know what I mean? Like he's what was the term that Maurice used to say all the time?
200-foot player.
200-foot player and one that pushes the pace. What's the term?
Driver. Yeah, Adam
Lowry is a driver. He drives whatever line, and he pulls the guys with him, and then they become better players.
That was a Pomo drinking game word. Driver.
Oh yeah, driver, man. That was up there with the bad blunders and the like caroms and all the things, man. Yeah.
Good for the room. Take a shot. Driver. Take a shot.
Now, can you imagine post-game drinks?
How about this one? This one I just heard, and again and I got to give credit because this is Dallas color commentator Daryl Ray, who doesn't like the 200-foot player because it doesn't include the width. So Adam Lowry is a 17,000 square foot player.
Doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well, but I see what you're saying. That's good. Yeah. That's funny.
Like every area of the ice, that's the type of player he is. And Adam Lowry to me would be the definition of that.
Well, you know me, when I'm saying who I think the next captain should be, Adam Lowry's the guy that always comes to mind for me. I love Josh Norris. He could go either way. See, I didn't even say Morrissey, just Josh Norrissey. That's just what it is.
Natural. And I didn't say it because I always let you say it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I was a little worried.
I was worried. It just becomes a thing, though. Hey, like my buddies, you just text back and forth. It's like you see that play Norrissey just made.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And
I was worried Ottawa defenseman Josh Norris would have a good season and they would steal it. Like I was kind of worried about that more than anything.
Except he's a center, so it's not, you don't have to worry about
that. Oh yeah, I guess he's not a defenseman.
Right, he's a forward, so it doesn't really apply as well, right?
Yeah.
It works perfect with Morrissey.
Well, if I coached Ottawa, I would have put him on defense. He just would have went center to defense.
You have no choice.
You have no choice. You're going to be a defenseman now. Your name.
Man, that team's bad, eh? Senators, they're bombing.
No, and we can't go there. We can't go there because it'll open up a can of worms.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like the Chicago rebuild, the same thing. Like if you get rid of all those 25-year-olds and up, like
that cross check changed the season, man. On Norris at the dot, that changed the whole season for the Senators. That was nuts. Well, and there wasn't even a suspension on that play, was it?
No. And they didn't get
injured. Just
that. Yeah, but they didn't get Farmington signed either. Like there's a couple things and then Talbot went down start of the year.
But that was like only a couple games into the season, right? So that'd be
before the season started.
Before preseason.
Yeah.
Shit, yeah.
So yeah, but that's how not to rebuild. Ottawa's the example how not to rebuild. And yeah, they've got great star players, but you still got to have that. Like you should have had Mark Stone. You should have had Erik Karlsson. You should have had what's his name? Always forget his name. Who's in Florida now. Had a good season there, but there's a few guys on the Senators that should have still been there for these guys to play with. You don't just get that from other teams. But anyways, let's get back on topic. Okay, so the bottom six in organizational depth was a big surprise here. Menelainen was a surprise. Harkins going down to the A, coming back up. He's looked totally different since his call.
He did exactly. If any other draft picks coming up, any players that are coming through the system, they're going to be like, look at what he did. Look how he went down, worked on his game, came back, and then proved why he should stay in the NHL. If that's not like a perfect, take the picture of him, the footage of how he played before, why he got sent down, and then show how he plays now. And he was a point a game, just lighting it up at the Moose, pushed his way back on the team. As soon as there was injury, he took advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
Opportunity.
Yeah. You might get your wish. You might get Sam Gagner on waivers before the end of the year, but it'll be because Harkins. Because
has to be. That has to happen.
Yeah. But that's the point of it. Like, because
Menelainen. Harkins.
Yeah.
And Menelainen.
And
even Axel.
Yeah. And the Moose Crossing. Like, really, that's part of this bottom six, which is what you wanted me to bring up. But but not even including Harkins in that, right? Because when we're talking about the Moose Crossing, you're talking about David Gustafsson solidifying himself as a NHL player. 100%. I guess Harkins too. And
he's kind of a no love guy too, Gus.
Yeah. And Mikey Eyssimont out of nowhere, right?
Eyssimont. Love me some Eyssimont. I remember I was texting you when I was at the first game of the season for the Moose. I'm like, this guy's the best player on the ice, man. And he had a great preseason. It's like, man, how does he not stick? It was a numbers game situation, right? So that's why he goes down. He comes up. Same thing as Harkins,
but he's a prime age player, so it's like this is a thing where he kind of has to stick.
But he knows it.
Yeah. It's not like he's not a prospect like I think some of the like out of town, like play-by-play and color guys are like, this.
Yeah, they don't know
prospect. Yeah.
He's seasoned. He's spent some time in the A. He's been a professional for a while, but he's only had a cup of coffee until now. Playing in the NHL,
so that's been a pleasant surprise. But my argument, and I did it in my last podcast when I talked about Winnipeg, was the idea of maybe Lowry slotting up with Dubois and Connor. I don't like it because of the face-off, because Lowry at wing, you wouldn't have him for face-offs because you don't really need him with Dubois.
I mean, granted, Dubois not as solid on the draw. So in that instance, if you did have that line situated like that, Lowry could take more draws, and they could switch in and out.
Yeah, but it's the percentage though. Actually, Dubois is not that far behind on his draws comparative
like
to Lowry.
47 or something.
Yeah, well, when I looked, it was about 49, and Lowry was like 50. Yeah, they were like they were really close. And I was like, but then I was like, I thought Gustafson could get the elevation, and then Dominic Toninato, Sam Gagner, and Jansen Harkins are all centers.
Yeah,
like they actually can all play center. You just need one of them to. So that was my argument on that. I don't care. I have no complaints with how they're, other than the fact that you've got that glaring spot until Ehlers or Appleton comes back with Dubois and KC. They're missing a top 6 player. That's
right now it's looking pretty nice the way the lines are set up. The last few games, we just got to see against a tougher opponent, right?
Well, I still
might have lightning in a bottle with Scheif and Wheels reconnecting and Perfetti doing platter stuff with them. They look pretty nice.
It just, you know what? I like Morgan Barron as a third liner. I think he has top 6 potential, but I like him as a third liner because it's a right winger. That's that spot. And I always say Nick Ehlers gets that spot because he's the best off wing player that Winnipeg has. Period. Because I basically have a rule. I'm like, you're gonna play the off wing. Okay, you need to get 25 goals for me if you're playing top 6, or you should be on your natural side. That's the benchmark. So Philip Forsberg, Nashville, yeah, he can play his off wing. Patrick Kane in Chicago, yeah, he can play his off wing. Nick Ehlers can do it, but there's not a ton of guys that can do it and put up numbers. Like that to me is like, that's
Ehlers, Dubois, Connor sounds like a pretty deadly line. You know?
Yeah. But the other thing too is I just want somebody that would be maybe a backup to the what do I want to call it? Like in the case there's another injury, I just think another right winger is this a valuable thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, you call him Chevy all day off. I don't think he's pressing hard on the gas to find a right-handed shot right winger. He's overly concerned with that at the moment.
Yeah, like I think there's an opportunity there to, like, and I still think Blake Wheeler upping his trade value at this point, I still would make, like, I've suggested Josh Anderson for Wheeler. I think that,
I love that one. I love that one.
That to me is like getting someone a little younger but still a prime age player that can play top 6.
There's also a history of remember last year I was watching the World Championships. You're like, I don't time for the World Championships because the playoffs are on. But like early on, I was watching those. I'm into that. I like that stuff. European fans are going all nuts. And I was watching Dubois and Anderson play together, and Lowry and Anderson play together sometimes as power forwards, man. And they were deadly together. So the idea or thought of having Josh Anderson, another power forward that can score on the Jets, and you said he has more term, right? He's on for 4 or 5 years,
and it fits into the structure Winnipeg has for salary, because I think it's 5.
And at a lower cap hit, right?
Yeah, it's 5.5 per, but it's a 5-year.
Nice,
but he's younger. He's still in his 20s though. Like yeah. So there was that. Like that was, to me, was, it's like, okay, yeah, you're trade off and you move Blake Wheeler on, but you know what? If you get another true top 6 right winger in that spot and freed up salary, there's your right-hand defenseman money. Maybe you move DeMello in a deal to get a right-hand defenseman, and voila, all of a sudden,
most people are going to listen to what you're saying here and go, like, you're going to trade Blake Wheeler, who's just behind a point-a-game player, been a point-a-game player's whole life. What's Josh Anderson's top point total in the season? And they're like, look how he's playing. You just got a hat trick. What are you going to say to them about trading Blake Wheeler, the captain of the Jets, this whole time, and just sell them on the fact that we're thinking long-term, big picture, or you're talking about short-term, he could be just as good, a good trade-off. It could be a pretty close trade-off. I think most people would be nervous about it because they're like, well, you don't want to stop that Scheif Wheels connection now. And then right now in the last few games, playing with Perfetti, seem to find his game. He's finding a way to produce, right? So people have a hard time letting go because it's Wheels, right? He's the captain. He's a legend here in Winnipeg.
Oh yeah. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong. Like, I think a lot of people, like, when you're doing analysis, like, you're trying to, like, make the team better. Like, you're trying to look at it in present, but also in the future. And I think people don't understand. Like I'm a big fan of Blake Wheeler, and he's a big boy. He can handle it too. Like, you know what? If I'm going to say something about Blake Wheeler, I know Blake Wheeler will take it with a grain of salt and show up. And in fact, he has shown up. And
he proved it this year,
yeah,
right?
No issue on that. No issue on that. But if you could make that move, that to me is a solid move you make. And you know what? It's like from the Montreal perspective, it was getting cap space like freed up sooner, and they're going to have some young prospects that need to get paid. Maybe Slafkovsky's going to need some of that money that, what Anderson's making right now when his entry level contract's done. Wheeler's off the book in 2 years. Like, you know what I mean? So,
definitely. Yeah. Slafkovsky's a first overall pick, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be getting paid in a couple of years.
So I'm just like, it's like, it's a win-win. That's what I was trying to sell it on. Yeah, I get Wheeler. Like, Wheeler was like an impactful player for the Jets, but you have to sometimes move on from those players at the right time. Like
100%. It's one of the hardest things in life. It's one of the hardest things as a sports fan is letting go. Right? People have a hard time letting go of what they've known, what they've always known, and a guy that's been a heart and soul guy for a long time, even if it's for the best interest of the team.
Like, here's an example though. If you have to do the buyout that Minnesota GM Bill Guerin did, not popular to Zach Parise and Ryan Suter in the same summer, and yet Minnesota's been a playoff team and pretty much in the top 3 every year since they did those buyouts. They're outside looking in this year, but the past 2 years, they've been playoff bound, comfortably made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons after those buyouts. So he took a lot of heat, and he was right.
Yeah, you have to be willing to.
Yeah.
On a move like that, right? Like the Andrew Ladd thing, which is like somewhat comparable. It's like, I feel like most fans had accepted the fate that Andrew Ladd's his decline was more noticeable, a little bit bigger drop off, not to do a Max Kellerman, a cliff, off the cliff thing. You could see it coming. With Wheels, it's like last year it felt like that when the Jets were struggling, that he really wasn't, what's he doing to lead this team and take them to the promised land, take them to the playoffs. This team is not playing with heart, so you blame it on the captain. He's the easy person to point a finger at. And then now this year, it's like seeing Wheels, it's kind of like you're just seeing him rejuvenated. So it's like he's got a few years left. People want to see him to the end, you know what I mean? Even if it's not in the best interest of the team, people want to see Wheels retire as a Jet. You know what I mean? They want to see him finish. He's been with us for so long, especially if he's still producing,
If you were going into a tank, then let him finish out his career, but you're trying to win right now. That's my argument on it. Now, 100%. Okay, so this team more to the expectation level that you had them at the beginning of the year. So give yourself a pat on the back.
I'd say they've even gone beyond my expectations. I thought they were going to be fighting. I thought they may be in the middle of the pack, but to see them at the top of the division is next level, especially considering if you told me that Nikolai Ehlers is out after 2 games. Yeah, they've blown my expectations out of the water, but very happy. Yeah, they had the internal growth in them,
That my I think it was 78 point total. I think it was like literally a point more than San Jose. I was literally 6th in the division.
Totally. They're going to be the worst team in the league. I'm like, what? Like the worst team
not
in the division.
The worst. I didn't have them. I didn't have the worst. But I will say this. Okay, so to me, this is real. This is real. I think because Rick Bowness, and I think because they'll get Nick Ehlers back. I still think Hellebuyck's got to cover up for some of the deficiencies that Kevin Shovel all day off created. They've never replaced Dustin Byfuglien since he retired. Statement of fact. But Morrissey's been amazing.
That's an impossible guy to replace, though.
Right? But that doesn't mean you don't try and find at least somebody that's capable of being low level, a top pair guy for Josh Morrissey. Like, I'm just saying. But at this point, I think they're going to be a top 3 team in the Central Division the way this is shaking out. I think the teams that are in the 3 spots right now will be there at the end of the year. I don't know the order. I just know they're all going to be in the top 3. I think it's a lockdown.
Yeah, from what I've seen from Dallas and the games the Jets have played and a couple that are outside of it, they play really well structured. They're more dynamic than they've been in a couple years. And yeah, they look to me like they just play like a playoff team, like 60-minute games all the time. The Avalanche have put up the points they put up with a depleted lineup. They are the Stanley Cup champs, so you know they're going to be pushing to the very end. So Jets keep doing what they're doing. They got a shot. We're going to get healthy. It seems like forever. It seems like a long time away before Nikolai Ehlers is back in the fold. But Appleton's going to be a huge boost as well. And I think they have what it takes right now. They're playing a way that they can survive and keep their head above water and then make for the push at the very end. Who knows? Hope maybe Chevy won't take all day off, like you said, won't take the whole year off, and we'll make a push at the trade deadline. But for now, they got what it takes. I feel like the Moose crossing. That's been a huge.
Already won. Want to just wrap it up. Thanks for listening to the First Cast podcast. We'll come back and hit you guys up with another episode or two as the season goes along.